Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
There's so many good banter topics that we could do because we are fortunate. For those of you who are not seeing the set right now, we have 3 people on set. We have Coach Adam Fetter in the house, FBB Master Coach, Doctor of Physical Therapy, joining us from Austin, Texas. He's been with, how long have you been working for functional bodybuilding?
I started in 2019, took
a hiatus.
Yep. And then back again for now two and a half years.
Wow. 2.5 years.
Yeah. Cause I just had a couple clients mention, I'm coming up on 2 years, or we just finished 2 years.
Wow.
So yeah, about 2.5 years.
Yeah. Outstanding. So yeah, Adam's joining us. He's in town with his girlfriend, Nicole. Sorry to just throw you onto the show suddenly, but they're
special guest.
Yeah, taking a little trip through Marin County. We're excited to have you here. It always is fun to have anybody from the company come and pay us a visit. But if anybody's read the newsletters lately, y'all know that when Adam and I get together, it kind of awakens something inside of me that turns up intensity a little bit. So let's address that right now, okay? I found out that I actually don't work very hard on the leg extension machine until today. So Adam did his you did the full stack on the leg extension when we were training today?
Yeah, full stack. I don't know how many reps we did, somewhere 10 to 12 plus a couple
forced reps.
Yeah, forced reps.
Yeah.
I'm big on the forced reps lately. I watched, again, I was telling Nate this earlier, I watched a bunch of these old like Dorian Yates videos, and him and his training partner just screaming at each other, doing forced reps on every single exercise. I was like, I really want to just replicate that as much as I can in my training. I
mean, any of the bodybuilding like training videos, like from Dorian through like Ronnie Coleman, like you watch any of those, it gets you kind of going to a different type of place in training.
Yeah, I've been listening to the old like Tom Platz videos as well, and he's just like a philosopher of being crazy in the gym, going super hard. And I listen to him like, yep, let's go to the gym right now.
Like there's that clip of Tom Platz where he's like talking about standing up out of a squat, and the metal plates, when they rattle at the top of a squat, it was like his like drug. He was like, you just gotta get the clang, and then you do another rep. And he just like, you're like, whoa, man, something's coming over this guy. Like, but then you look at his legs and you're like, well, those are some pretty juicy hams he's got there.
It's really inspiring to listen to those people and how much they love training. Yeah. That I can listen to 10 seconds of it, and that's my pre-workout. Yeah.
Well, it's also cool because it's like, I would say that was an era of like hardcore training, like, and effort was that what people did. Mm-hmm. And then like people reflect on the training methods at the time, and they like to poke holes at how so-and-so did this and Arnold was doing it all wrong and blah, blah, blah. It's like, but they were all working their asses off. Mm-hmm. And now maybe there's a bias towards like getting too sciencey and too nuanced. And it's like, hey, I've got the best like leverage position on my tricep because I do it this way. It's like, great, like go fucking lift something heavier, like, do some more. So anyway, we're kind of hopefully finding a way to kind of blend both of those worlds a bit more now.
Yeah, I think that was a part of their advantage, was that they actually couldn't see what other people were doing. It's so easy now to see like, oh, this person's doing this thing and this person's doing this thing, so I need to incorporate all of that into my training, where those people were like, oh, this feels really good to me. I'm just going to go as hard as I can and make this feel as best as it can, and that's going to be my training style. And they have to do their own trial and error to see what works for them. Yeah. And they can't base it off of, this influencer is doing this and this influencer is doing this, so I'm going to try to combine all that into this beautiful program. I think that was a huge advantage for that era of bodybuilding.
This is a whole topic that we need to unpack. I just want to pivot. Like, fuck this topic. We're gonna go with this. Okay. Yeah. I'm actually really, wow. So let's. On the fly, Satya, how can we formulate this into, like, what's the underlying thing here is that people have, you get to see far too much of what everybody is doing in fitness and training it becomes incredibly distracting from the thing that actually yields the biggest result, which is effort, right? Because I think we've talked about it plenty of times, but it's like effort comes first, and then you can layer in, science and nuance and training protocols. And it's like, but if you're not actually 3 sets of 10 is ideal for some movement, only if you're doing 3 sets of 10 hard. And so seeing so many different training methods that are out there, how is that makes it infinitely more difficult than the days of like Dorian Yates, where like what was his environment that he was training in?
Yeah, well, I think the kind of what you were saying earlier about people poking holes in other people's programs and whatnot. If you look at Dorian Yates, he's like, I'm going to do 1 set really hard. And then there's other bodybuilders that I'm going to do 8 sets or 10 sets, and that's going to be really hard. How can both of these people that their program is so different come to the same outcome? It's because the underlying or the common denominator between all of it is effort. As long as you're putting effort, if you're doing 8 sets and it's a lot of effort, or if you're doing 1 set and it's a lot of effort, you're going to get really good results. And so that common denominator is always the effort with all of the people from that era. And even, even people like, high level bodybuilders today or high level athletes in general, the reason they're so successful is because they put forth a lot of effort. Of course, there's like, some nuances within training that are inevitable, but as long as you're putting effort, if you're doing like a little bit this way or a little bit this way, I think you're going to still get a really good outcome just based on the effort.
One of the things we put in our newsletter that just went out today was this concept of getting 1% better, just a little bit better each time, as opposed to trying to have the perfect program like all wrapped up in one. And we were saying one of the common mistakes people make is just trying to do too much. And I think that when you're seeing so much of everyone else's training program, it's so tempting to doubt the path that you're on. And it's like there's such a cultural difference between effort is the thing versus everyone is doing all these sexy looking things. And if I'm not doing what that guy is doing, I'm on the wrong path. And it affects so much about the mindset that you have going into your training program too, because like on the effort train, that's all you have to trust. But on the I'm doing everybody's program train, then it's like, what do you anchor yourself on?
Yeah, if I come into a training session and I have any little bit of doubt that like I didn't pick the right exercise today, or oh shoot, I didn't do the right warm up, or I didn't do the right rep scheme, the rest of my training session, I can't put forth a great effort. So as soon as like once I'm confident, I'm like, this is a great program day. I feel good to go into this session. I know that session's going to be great because there is no doubt. But to your point, it's like the paralysis by analysis. If I'm thinking through my program, like, oh shoot, I saw this guy do this yesterday. Now should I do leg press instead of back squat? Or, oh, maybe I should do the Smith machine. And now when that doubt creeps in, training session already is like in the tank.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And that's coming from somebody who's like a professional in this industry. I'm thinking about someone who's listening to this, or someone who's an average, fitness enthusiast who is probably thinking, okay, I don't have a clear path, so I'm going to go and try and consume a lot of information out there and get influenced by a lot of different people, find my inspiration. And they open up social media as a place to go do that, which is a great place these days to go and find, connect with creative, influential, fitness, knowledgeable people. But it's like, boom, you just got 100 of them, right? And now you've got 100 things that are swirling through your head that are making you think, what's the best thing for me to do? You show up to the gym and it's all relatively crap from there forward, because you're like, well, should I be doing this thing or that thing or this thing? It's like, as your expertise in fitness, goes down and down and down to like, I don't know anything, I'm a complete novice. It's like you should be consuming the least amount of fitness content at the bottom, and at the top you can consume more, but there's a threshold to how much you can consume without getting distracted. And so one of our points in that email was like, have a plan. And like, once you have a plan, literally delete every other app, every other fitness influencer, just like have one person, and focus on that for a predetermined period,
a real go.
a predetermined period of time that is much longer than you think. Yes. Because like going back to Dorian Yates, it's like this guy was in a dungeon for a year. Like, and I say a dungeon, that's kind of a, like, people think that's like a relatively intense term. It's like, well, what was that? Like, that seems creepy. It seems like, you know, sadistic. It's like, this guy went into a dark basement with about 10 machines, and it was cold, and it was in London, and he would wear layers upon layers, and there were really not a lot of mirrors, and he didn't do a lot of posing, and he just went to work. And he would do that for 10 months and then prep and then show up at the Olympia, and people were like, oh my gosh, what a freak. Like, this is we've never seen anything like this. And then he would just close up shop, go back to, you know, it's like, okay, done with that, go back, do it another year and another year. And it was just like quiet, focused, this is the work, this is the plan, no outside distractions. Like, he's like, I didn't need to go to Venice, you know, California, and train at Gold's Gym with all these other people. It's like, I knew what I was trying to do, and that was it.
Well, Adam, this morning when we were warming up in the gym, I overheard you talking to Marcus about someone that you were following, some mobility person or whatever, and you said something like, yeah, like, I'll do a little bit of it here and there, but like, there's only so much of like this other person's protocols or whatever that I can work into my routine. And, you know, at the level of training and experience that you're at, and you're at as well, Marcus, I mean, I think it's helpful to take a snapshot of like, how many people are you following, and, you know, what is your balance of intensity and focus on one particular method versus learning and experimenting?
Well, I think that example is a good one on this same topic of, I could pretty quickly assess what this person was trying to prescribe and what were some of the benefits of doing mobility this way, and why you would do this, or who should be doing this. I can pick up on that pretty quick, but even I can't fully feel what it's like until I do it for 4 weeks or 8 weeks. So I took what he was saying, I've implemented, I threw out some of my other, you know, normal mobility or stretching routines that I would normally do to give this a real go and try to fully understand it. And same thing what we were just talking about. Once you pick up on something, throw everything else out and give that a true go, whether it's mobility, whether it's like a specific training program, whether it's a nutrition protocol. You can't really understand and take, you know, the knowledge from that thing unless you do truly give it a go. And that's, even the clients that I'm working with struggle with that all the time. They'll pick up something and they're like, oh, this sounds really great. They'll do it for a week and they're like, you know, it didn't really work or didn't feel great. And I'm like, well, you know, you got to go through some obstacles, make it fit into your lifestyle, you know, do it for 4 to 8 weeks, and then you can get a true assessment. And then you've really learned a ton from that experience.
Yeah, it's harder than ever for anybody to commit to doing something long enough to truly learn from it. It's like, and I think why that is nothing's changed in history of like committing to betterment has its obstacles. There'll always be obstacles that we run into. And, you know, when let's say you're you know, I don't know why the farmer comes to mind, but like, let's say you're living in just like, a period of time where like what you're able to produce for yourself, you know, is how you survive. Like what food you grow, what animals you can, you know, raise. This is your life. Like, so you're going to, you know, in month 1, like something's going to happen. There's going to be a crop that's starting to die. There's going to be, you know, it's like, you have to just work your way through this. You don't just be like, oh, you know what? Fuck this whole growing, you know, vegetables thing. I'm going to go to the store, you know, I'm going to get Uber Eats. Like, I'm going to try this. Like, and this could be, we could make a quick jump to like the nutrition analogy, or like the nutrition, you know, following a diet or something like that. It's like, oh, this didn't work. Well, I've got exposure to 50 other ways to do it, and 100 different influencers that are telling me different information about how I could solve the problem that everyone faces, which is, it's hard. Something's going to happen. And with training, no different. It's like, man, I had one bad training session where my weights didn't go up, this program's not right. Oh, well, so-and-so over here is telling me that like if I just use this app that's got AI built into it to help me like figure out how to adjust my weights and then just keep progressing forever, I'm going to be fine. Like I got to go get the app. And then you go get the app and you switch to a new platform after 4 weeks of something you were trying. Now you're on the app. Another 3 weeks goes by. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to hit a plateau. You're going to hit something. You're going to have a bad lift. The AI is going to adjust it. The next session is going to not be that great because that happens in life. You have 2 bad days and you're like, this app sucks. I'm going to go to the next app. And because you have thousands and thousands of options in front of you, it just becomes like impossible to stick to something. And I think that to just like bring it full circle, I was like gushing over this YouTuber this morning, this drummer who I just am like, I'm so moved by his life story and his approach. Why? Because the guy does one thing and he does the same thing every day. And he's been doing it for like years. And he's so committed to his craft. And he's like, you know, does he have bad days? Hell yeah, he has bad days. Does he have good days? Sure. But when he has a bad day, he's not like, you know, this drumming thing, you know, I'm just going to go pick up the next. He's like, he commits to his, and the reward at the end of a deep commitment to something is immense. And it's like, I want everyone to feel that. I want to feel that again in my life in certain ways. And I'm, you know, distracted by the, you know, thousands of other options that are in front of us. And it gets me fired up because I'm like, look, I'm struggling with this and I'm somebody who's deeply focused and committed and has put in years of work on specific things to learn them deeply. And even I'm struggling with it because of, you know, what we're constantly bombarded with around media and around the consumption of people's ideas, which is good and in this way problematic.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that's challenging though is that it's really hard to know what hard effort is. And I think even more complicated when you're following an online training program where you're not around people who are doing that. And I don't even have an answer to this question, but I'm just curious what it would take for somebody to really understand that.
That's a really good question. And that is what...
It's called doing leg extensions with Adam.
Yeah.
That's it. They just do a couple sets with Adam.
Yeah, I ask myself that when I'm coaching a client. Like, they're doing my program that I've written, and sometimes they'll include video, and when they include video, it's really easy for me to see what's the effort given here. And then there's other times where if they don't include a video and they say, hey, that was an RP of 8 or 9, and I'm like, well, what is your RP 8 and 9? You know, like, what is that reference for you, right? Like, when I compare my own training to, we'll use Dorian Yates again, the way that he's screaming and he has a partner screaming at him, the intensity that he can push is not the same intensity that I can push when I'm in my garage alone. It's, 7 a.m. Like, no matter how hard I try, that effort won't be the same. And so I don't have a solution or an answer either. I don't know the answer, but helping somehow helping people understand what true intensity and effort in the gym, or, how do you do this program really, really well with the highest effort, is solving that problem is, I think, what most people should be asking. How can I put forth more effort into this program? What else do I have to do in order for the intensity to continue to be higher?
It is an important question to sort of solve for. However, we talk a lot about it's not all about like maxing out intensity every day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and what is the downside of that too? Like, I wouldn't trade bodies with Ronnie Coleman,
Nope.
Not at all.
Definitely not.
Ronnie Coleman, for those listeners who don't know, is, a champion, Mr. Olympia bodybuilder who was one of the best of all time. And he's essentially, he still can move, but he's pretty broken as a human being physically. He's had countless back surgeries, lots of pain. He's kind of a shell of the man and the physical body he used to be as a result of just that level of intensity that he pushed. And probably performance enhancing drugs, the whole deal. I think it's kind of to me, what it is like when you only have one option and it stops working, then the lever that you have to pull is effort. It's like, hey, this thing's not working the way I'm doing it now. I have to work harder. And that doesn't necessarily mean like lifting more weights. It could be like putting more effort into like your warm up and your preparation, just like putting more energy into doing it well. The thing that you have in front of you, the method, the process that's in front of you. Unfortunately, with 100 times as many options available to people as there were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, it's, giving more effort's hard.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't always feel good. You're like, why isn't it easier to do this thing? It's, so if you're faced with this option of like, well, I can either pull the effort lever, or maybe I can go try a different thing so that I can keep working just this hard, but like with the new thing, I'll start to see a new result. And, I think that we want to just highlight the fact that when you get to sticking places or tough places, it doesn't just mean like go find the new method or change method. It's lean into effort. Think about ways that you can bring better effort. Effort could look like screaming and yelling and getting to the right environment so that you can hit 9 out of 10 RPE, a true 10 out of 10 RPE. Or it could mean bringing more focus and intention and effort to your preparation, your warm-up, to your cool downs,
sleep, nutrition,
to sleep, to something that supports the path that you're already on, not a new path. And that's the program hopping. That's the decision fatigue. That's like you're spending all this time trying to figure out what you should be doing, when in reality you don't need a new plan or path. You need to kind of refocus on where you're pulling the effort lever.
This is a great point. I'm going to reiterate what you said just so that everybody like really takes it in. And this is something that I'm learning as I'm continuing to get more and more experienced as a trainee myself, is that putting forth more effort in the gym is great. And I want it, like you said, I want to be able to pull that lever when it's needed. But for me, putting forth more effort is being more consistent with the times that I train, making sure that my nutrition is good going into the training session and coming out of the training session, making sure that I don't have a ton of stress going into my training, or that when I am training, I'm not thinking about other stresses or work. I can truly focus on the training. So that's a great point, in that increasing your effort or your intensity doesn't always come from doing the set harder. It's setting yourself up better to be able to put forth more effort in the training, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a good, like the story that has kind of come out in some of our newsletters is the story of like, oh, I went to Austin last year, hung out with Adam and Ben and Ryan. We trained for a few days, got after it. I'm like, I like, wow, I thought I was strong and I'm not strong. I got to come out and give more effort in what I'm doing. And I pulled the like effort of my sets and intensity in the gym super, super hard for 3 months. And I didn't really focus on the effort in the other areas that you're talking about. And just my shoulder got really, really pissed at me, by not bringing effort in a balanced way to all these different aspects of the process. It was like, I was fine coming into the gym and just cranking on intensity and getting closer to failure and getting, and so that, like, if you just have this singular approach, like, well, Dorian Yates was just a monster and was, yelling at himself and being yelled at, and that's it. It's like, yeah, that is one piece of the effort puzzle to maximize his process. Now you have to also understand that, like, he had every part of his life organized and dialed into that. Like, he was not a balanced guy. He didn't care about balance. Like, that was not the point. It was to be hyper focused on this thing. So his ability, like you said, like, I can't bring that level of intensity in all my training environments. It's like, you're right, you can't. Like, he had built the magic, around that environment through an immense amount of dedication. And that might not be realistic to everybody, but recognizing that there are more than just like training intensity and yelling and screaming. There's intensity or effort rather brought to the whole, setting yourself up for better efforts. I
agree with all that. And I still think that, especially for women, I'm just going to speak for myself here. There are not a lot of models of training intensely to the effort that really is required for true change. And so I think back to like years that I've had in my training where if I had known more about effort in the way that I do today, I could have made a lot more progress.
If you had had the female Dorian Yates just watching bodybuilding videos of, yeah. It made me think about the set we have on camera of Nicole doing that double rest pause set on the leg press with like shaking legs. Like, I'm not sure I want to do another one. Like, you're going to do a couple more. Like, that was an epic set. Like, that is a great example, just a visual of like, that's, that was like the second exercise of the day. Like, and we got.
How often do you train that way? Not often. Yeah.
It was great. We were all doing it. It was inspiring, to just be in that environment, like that as a visual. Like, as we were talking about this, and you're like, how do we solve this problem? I'm like, well, for the functional bodybuilding community in Atom, we should have like. Atom is a software platform, not Atom, ATOM. We should have like, the weekly effort video of the week, shout out to like RP, Renaissance Periodization. They have like a video they post a video. It's like their technique cyborg of the week. It's like it's a set of somebody in the community who like embodies the full range of motion techniques that they're talking about and gives great effort. Yeah. And it's like, let's show like, look at this as someone getting after it, and not getting like, I'm not going to post a person getting after it with like, rounded back deadlift, just kind of like, doing the scared cat, pull up, type of thing. 'Cause that is not effort that we deem appropriate. That's like beyond levels of effort that are conducive to progress. It's too much risk of injury there, but we have those in our community, and we certainly have them in this gym, and not every day, but
and even to that point, focusing on movement quality is one more layer of where you can put forth effort. Yeah. Right? Like if you're moving really poorly, you probably haven't put in the effort to see examples of people moving well, or think through and be intentional about how you're moving. That is just one more layer of putting forth effort in training, which I love as well, that RP does that to like promote great technique, but it makes you start thinking and being more intentional with how you're moving. And that, like I said, that's just one more layer of effort that can go into this whole training process, not just grunting and screaming.
Yeah, well, as we're kind of coming up on time for this episode, this is a packed discussion. I want to just go back and highlight that what got me started thinking about this was just this has become a conversation about like how to give effort well and what are good models of effort, but that there's this choice that we have when we now, like in modern day, with as much media as we are exposed to and we have access to, and as many different ideas, and just like we have the world of ideas, and we get to see everybody's life in training at the touch of a fingertip, that when we are faced with a challenge or something is hard, and you get to say, how do I overcome this challenge? Do I give more effort, or do I go browse the thousands of options that might solve this for me without giving more effort? We are wired to almost, I think we're wired genetically to want to find like, what's the path of least resistance? Like, hey, somebody else is doing it pretty well over here. And it's funny because a lot of people are being drawn to the high intensity bodybuilding culture for that very reason. They're doing something, it stopped working, they're struggling, and they're like, what else is out there? Oh, look at this Mike Metzer, Dorian Yates thing. Oh, I should go try that. And they're like, they don't even know that they're stepping into a world of like, you're going to have to bleed through your freaking pupils in order for this to be effective. And they think it's just they actually think it's the path of least resistance, and they're just choosing the hardest, the hardest method of training.
Right, because it's a focus on the what is the program versus how is it executed.
Exactly. Yeah. So, wow. I'm sweating. That might be the coffee. It might be, the post-training vibes. It might be any of those things, but knick-knack.
Well, why don't we close with some takeaways, practical takeaways, my favorite.
Yeah, I think what you just said was a big one. Thinking about training not from the perspective of what does my program entail, but how do I do this program even better?
Yeah.
Or why am I doing this program? What's my intention with, Monday's training? What's my intention with this week of training or this month of training or this cycle, 2-3 weeks of training? Right? I think that's a huge takeaway.
Yeah. I'm going to add, it's like the double down rule. It's like when you get to the point where you're like, maybe I'll go see what's on the app store, give it a shot to just shut everything else off, maybe unfollow some people on Instagram, and try doubling down on what you're doing with more conscientiousness around your effort for 4 to 8 weeks, you'd say? Something like that.
I like that. I'm going to say I got 2 things to close with. Number 1, the next time that you're trying to get an inspiration for a workout and you open up Instagram and you go to the search feature, take your phone, turn it off, go into the gym, pick any exercise that you are confident doing, and do it until you are like exhausted. Mm-hmm. Just a one exercise. Mm-hmm. And the efficacy of that, like today, if that was me, I was like, I don't know what to do today fuck it, just get on the leg press and just leg press until I'm like literally shaking and I don't want to do another rep, and then I take a 2-minute break and I do another set, and then I do it again and again. And like that is just a very simple way to just be like, don't go and like scroll the gram, because you're going to waste 30 minutes just trying to find something that gets you inspired, and then you're going to pick up a light kettlebell and go do a flow, and you're going to not know how to do it, and you just wasted an hour, right? And then the second thing I was going to say is on top of what you just said, Adam, which is, it's like, how do I do this current program better? Mm-hmm. And we'll get into this in a future episode, but that is why we have coaches. Mm-hmm. Coaches are not here to create the perfect plan for you. Coaches are here to ensure that you are doing the plan in front of you to the best of your ability, because there is no perfect plan. There's just a good plan done exceptionally well. Mm-hmm. Dorian did not have the perfect plan. Mm-hmm. He had a plan that he believed in, and then he went all in on that for 8 or 7 Olympia titles. Mm-hmm. Ronnie had his plan. It isn't until 2 decades later that we're like, well, maybe Ronnie's plan wasn't right. It's like at the time it was right. Only in the aftermath are we able to kind of like poke holes at it. So, having coaches like Adam, and if Adam is actively taking on clients, he's a coach here, functional body plug for Adam. But it's like that's and we've discussed this recently. It's like that is what you kind of label your job. It's like, I'm here to make sure you do the thing the best way possible, because that's the fastest way to have progress. You can take 2 people on the same plan. This person doesn't kind of know what they're doing. They don't have belief in it. They're not sure how to crank up the effort level when it's right. And then this person has a coach that's telling them when and where to crank that lever, and they will have entirely different outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very well said.
And And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for joining us, Adam. Satya, as always, this is a blast.
I'll add one more call to action, which is that if you are interested in coaching with functional bodybuilding, you can visit our website at functional-bodybuilding.com/coaching. You can find out about our coaching services.
Yep. And you can get on a call with Adam and, pick his brain.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Yeah.